Hello everyone, today's video is about water safety. Just because we've been hanging out at the pool a little bit more and it's about the middle of summer now, it made me think of a few tips and anecdotes I wanted to share with you guys. So if you do not mind, I would love it if you could subscribe to this channel so that I can keep making these videos, and I would love to grow my subscribers, and I appreciate that very much. So in the middle of the summer, pediatricians begin to worry more about trauma and specifically about drowning. So I have a very tragic statistic to share with you. It turns out that in the United States of America, the #1 cause of death for children ages 1 to 4 is drowning. So we need to talk about that. I'm also going to talk to you guys today about sunscreen and other water hazards in the summer. Okay, so the most important thing is to prevent the drowning itself. A lot of parents worry about this sort of almost imaginary thing called dry drowning. That is not really a thing. The kind of drowning that we're worried about is actual drowning in the water, okay? Dry drowning was just something that was come up with to describe when on autopsy from an actual drowning in water, there wasn't water inside parts of the lung. That's what that term meant. It was an autopsy term. Not at all meant my baby swallowed one mouthful of water in the pool, will he die in a week from dry drowning? Absolutely not. I can reassure you that every child has swallowed water in the pool, okay? So first of all, that's not what we're worried about. We're worried about actual drowning or even near drowning, because if a child does suffer from a lack of oxygen to the brain, it can cause some permanent damage even if they're able to be resuscitated from the near drowning event. So first of all, don't trust your children. That's the main thing to remember, not even for 1 second. I have a patient mom who has shared this story with the public before that noted when she turned to put the potato salad in the cooler at a picnic in the backyard of a friend, she looked up to another child screaming that the baby was at the bottom of the pool. It is seconds. And a lot of times what happens is, you know, if you're at a get-together or a backyard barbecue, you may think that grandma's taking care of the toddler, and the dad might think mom has the toddler, and the mom might think that dad has the toddler, and then in those split seconds, nobody has the toddler and they could drown. So I just need for you, if you're around any form of water, somebody has to be designated. So you can say, I'm going to eat first and you watch the baby, and then you eat and I'll watch the baby. And when the baby's in your care, you better have a hand on that child at all times if you're around water. Of course, all pools should have fences around them so neighborhood children couldn't come and accidentally drown. It is a fantastic idea to have alarms that sound if the water is broken, the surface of the water is broken, but make sure that there are adequate protection measures in place that a toddler couldn't wander into the pool accidentally. That's extremely important. One of the most tragic clinical scenarios I was ever involved a drowning years and years ago, and it was just horrendous because in medicine we have this gross thing called you can't pronounce someone dead if their temperature is too cold. They have to be warm and dead before you can pronounce them dead. And so we resuscitated in this scenario for a very long time unsuccessfully, and it is just so very tragic. Always make sure bodies of water like pools or even ponds or lakes, if your child can get to it, that there's some sort of barrier between them. Now, when they're in the water on purpose and you're with them, make sure that an adult has their hand on that toddler at all times. They should always have a flotation device on their body. If you're on a boat, always don't take even a second for granted to take that life jacket off, because something terrible could happen. Also, we recommend swimming lessons, and they're very much an investment that's worth your money. It could save your child's life in the future, so highly recommend swimming lessons. Also, let's talk about sunscreen. So the official American Academy of Pediatrics recommendation is to not use sunscreen until 6 months, although there is an asterisk that says unless direct sunlight is unavoidable. So try to avoid direct sunlight at under 6 months. You could do that with an umbrella over a little flotation device. You could do it with the floppy hat to help with face. There's multiple ways that you could use to try to block direct sunlight on a tiny infant, because remember that infant's also not going to be as heat tolerant as an older child or an adult, so they're going to need some extra fluids. You're going to need to take some breaks. Avoid being on the actual beach in the middle of the day, both because it may be more crowded, but also because the direct sunlight's more severe. They're more prone to dehydration, and it's just a lot hotter in the middle of the day. So you may want to, if you're visiting the beach with an infant, try to do it in the morning or the evenings, and that could be safer. So let me tell you about sunscreens. There are two kinds. One is a chemical-based sunscreen. One is a mineral-based sunscreen. The mineral-based has zinc oxide or titanium oxide. Zinc oxide is what you'll recognize from Destin. It's just a thick white mineral that is completely a barrier, including, it turns out, to UV rays of the sun. So it can prevent burning very well and very effectively. Also, there are these little clothes now called Rash Guard, which are awesome because they completely block UV light, so your baby can't possibly rub them off or sweat them off, and they still provide protection throughout the day. Remember, no matter how high the SPF on the sunscreen, you still need to reapply it at least every 2 hours. So if you're paying for numbers near 100, you're probably not getting your money's worth. You can go up to about 50, and much past that, it's not really worth more money because you're still going to need to reapply it about every 2 hours. Remember that before using each season, and they can expire, when you get fresh sunscreen, make sure that you try a small test patch on your child's leg, just a small area, before you have to use it all over, just to make sure that they're not allergic to it. We see so many rashes in the summer, and sometimes it's a combination of sweating, sun exposure, a rash from the sun itself, the chlorine, the wet bathing suits rubbing, just a host of different things, and sometimes the sunscreen could be the culprit as well. So make sure you do a test patch first, and I really do love the mineral-based sunscreens for being less likely to cause a rash, even though they are a little bit more expensive, probably worth it for the tinier infants. So 6 months and above can have the sunscreen. Remember to push hydration. Remember not to let them get overheated. And then a few other water-related things. There are often, every summer, tragedies from the water from a hose that's been in the backyard and just lying on top of the ground with the sun hitting it. That water temperature can be heated up to 130 to 140 degrees, and that can cause a severe burn on a child or pet. So you should always let the water run out for a while, not point it at anyone, until you start getting the fresh water that's going to be a cooler, safer temperature. Another tragedy I want to share with you, fortunately it wasn't horrible, just really rough there for a while. A mom shared this story with me and wanted me to share it with others. So she shared it jokingly as, if you're ever pressured when you're having your child's birthday party to have the perfect birthday party with the perfect party favors and everything just so precisely ideal, she wanted me to tell you this story so you would feel better about yourself if yours didn't go as planned. She was having an outdoor water party for a cute little 3 to 4 year old toddlers, so they all came over in their adorable little swim trunks and their bathing suits, and just precious. And the highlight of the party was a water sprinkler that they were all going to run through and have great fun. So she hooked it up to the hose. She hooked the hose up. Everybody get ready, and there was a big circle around the sprinkler, and she turned the water on full blast so the sprinkler came on and hit all of the children. But unfortunately, what she didn't realize is there was a fire ant nest inside the sprinkler, and so she accidentally sprayed fire ants on all these children. It was horrible, and several ended up in the emergency department. Everyone was okay eventually, but it was a horrible experience, very embarrassing. So please, please, please make sure if you're using a sprinkler, if it's been sitting outside for a while, that there aren't any insects or wasps or fire ants or anything on the inside that you could accidentally spray on the children. So remember your sunscreen, remember to stay hydrated, don't spray fire ants on your birthday party guests, and remember that the water in the hose could be heated more than you realize. I hope this was helpful. Thanks. Halloween. Is it fun? It's so fun. What?
It's like how racers, like runners will measure
Oh,
like
he's waving. You're so smart.
Really good time on lap 3. That was my first one.